Now I'd like to ask the second candidate to come out, Deval Patrick, who is a Democratic candidate for governor.
Good evening.
Mr. Patrick, you have a minute for your opening remarks.
Should I fire away? Janet, thank you for, and SkillWorks and everyone for being here and for having me today. I'm looking forward to the, thank you, I'm looking forward to the conversation. Some of you I know here I've met, many of you I haven't, so let me just say a word or two about who I am and how I came to the race and why I think this conversation is so important, not just for the campaign, but for the future of the Commonwealth. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, which is generally not thought of as the garden spot. I lived there with my mother, my sister, and my grandparents in a two-bedroom tenement, shared a bunk bed with my mother and my sister, so you go from the top bunk to the bottom bunk to the floor, every third night on the floor. But it was a time when every child was under the jurisdiction of every single adult on the block. So if you messed up down the street in front of Ms. Jones's, she would straighten you out as if you were hers. People treated us like they had a stake in us. I came here to Massachusetts when I was 14 years old in 1970, and I have had a series of remarkable chances. But I believe chance comes to the well-prepared, and we need to talk about how we get well-prepared this evening and right through my 2 terms as governor of Massachusetts.
Well, let's see if you make your first term first. First question. Mr. Patrick, how would you make workforce development, including job training, adult basic education, ESOL, and other essential training, an integral part of your jobs and economic development strategy?
Janet, thanks for the question. Well, first of all, I think this is something we have studied enough, and with all the studies, there still seems to be an extraordinary lack of coordination and frustration about that. I mean, I look at things like a healthcare industry, which is broad and important here, but not enough nurses, or a biotech industry, which is growing and important, but not enough technicians. I think what we need is leadership, and that's what I intend to provide. I want to make workforce development, meaning preparing people for opportunities, a central feature of the administration that I lead. I think that means or includes having workforce development as a part of the portfolio of the Secretary of Commonwealth Development. I think it means for every sector a plan around workforce development. So in other words, as we think about developing particular industries, what is the plan for assuring that those industries will have the people they need with the skills those people need in order for that industry to thrive? And so I think that means better coordination among the leaders of public education, including public higher education, around transitional assistance, and also the involvement of business, who have to be a part of the conversation on how it is we plan for the skills we need. As we think ahead, am I all right on time? You okay on time? As we think ahead, and
They'll let you know.
I have a feeling you will. As we think ahead and plan for the next thing economically, then I think part of that has got to be a plan for the people. And I happen to think the next thing economically for us here in Massachusetts is alternative and renewable energy. We make that industry, those technologies and products and services, if we build that and create a center globally, the whole world is our customer, and there are all kinds of job opportunities that flow from that.
Thank you very much. The second question. In your first budget as governor, will you provide a public match that will support a workforce competitiveness trust fund available to all workers and job seekers that equals the $21 million workforce training fund that employers now support through a surcharge on unemployment taxes? And I also asked the Lieutenant Governor about the Governor's veto. We'd like to hear from you as well about what you thought of Governor Romney's veto.
Well, to answer the second question first, not much. But I understand that the veto is or will be overridden, and it should be. I think, though, that the answer to the question about the $21 million public match is maybe. And I say maybe because while I support the Workforce Training Fund and the Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund and Extended Care Career Ladder Initiative, Bay State Worker SkillWorks, various of the initiatives we have, I do think we have to ask ourselves the question whether we're getting the most out of the money we're spending. Because I'm frankly just not convinced that we have the coordination, that we have delivered on the promise of one-stop shopping, for example, whether the competition among the agencies public and quasi-public, that take a role in workforce development is in every case as productive or as constructive as I would like. So the answer is yes, I'm committed to spending what we need, but I don't know yet, frankly and honestly, whether $21 million is the right number.
Do you have a number in mind to
I don't.
start off with before you reorganize everything that you've talked about?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm committed to adequate funding, and I'm committed to getting to that fast, and I hope within the first year or two of my administration. But I'm just not sure as I stand here right now whether $21 million or some larger number, frankly, isn't the right number.
And how long do you suspect it would take you to reorganize and try to make more productive all these various agencies that are spread across the bureaucracy?
Well, frankly, Janet, I think a lot of that work has to be done before I take office. I mean, there is, that's a big part of the transition work that I don't want to presume too much, but that's a big part of the time that gets spent between election day and inauguration. So
and is this one of your top priorities before you take office?
Got to be.
Okay.
And I look to the folks in this room to help.